The Los Angeles Dodgers have officially broken baseball with their back-to-back championships. Kevin Durant is completely changing the way that athlete-fan relationships work, one tweet at a time. The gaming industry is on the verge of a golden era. Welcome back to Behold Pop Culture, the show where we take a look at all the biggest cultural moments that have taken place over the past week and make sure that you're never missing out on any major conversations. This week, the baseball season reached its conclusion as the World Series went 7 games to a win or go home situation between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. And after an exciting, jam-packed conclusion to the season, the Los Angeles Dodgers have officially broken baseball with their back-to-back championships. Game 7 felt like a movie. Taking place in Toronto, Canada, the Blue Jays fans were heartbroken. Even though they were in the lead for most of the game, the Dodgers rallied, endured, and claimed victory, winning back-to-back titles for the first time in franchise history and becoming the first team to win back-to-back championships in over 25 years. This is a team that has faced endless criticism from the media because of the fact that their success is largely on the back of Los Angeles being an attractive market for superstars to be in, as well as the fact that they're willing to pay large sums of money that other teams are not willing to pay to contend. The result of that was the Dodgers being able to get arguably the greatest player in baseball history in Shohei Ohtani, a guy who Alex Rodriguez has described as being Barry Bonds as a hitter and Roger Clemens as a pitcher combined in one. Basically, a superstar on both sides of the field. But even just having him wasn't enough. They have superstar hitters from Mookie Betts to Freddie Freeman to Will Smith and other pitchers who had to step up, primarily the MVP of the World Series, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And even though the Dodgers were favorites for most of the season and heading into the playoffs, the Blue Jays were great throughout the season and looked dominant on their way to the World Series. So over time, we became convinced that this was an even matchup. 2 outstanding teams going against each other. And when the Blue Jays had the Dodgers' backs against the wall, their superstar Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being outstanding defensively, their pitching getting the job done, the Dodgers responded with nothing but pure ice in their veins. For the Dodgers brand, this isn't just another ring. Now with 2 Japanese superstars on their team, this franchise is playing a pivotal role and expanding the sport of baseball beyond just the American scene, especially with chatter over the last decade of baseball becoming less popular. Game 7 in the World Series, that's how you get eyes to tune into the games. The best player of all time taking the field, that's how you get more eyes on the game. This team has cemented itself as not just iconic, but a recurring blockbuster waiting to happen. On the back of Kendrick Lamar uplifting LA and California more broadly, with his musical dominance in recent history that led up to the Super Bowl, it has been non-stop celebration for the city of LA. And just that quickly, they're no longer just a flash in the pan who paid for a championship. Legacy takes time. There's a laundry list of athletes who have won 1 championship or 1 MVP, and they're certainly cemented in the history books, but there's something about winning multiple awards at the highest level that elevates the way that people view you for the rest of time. And that's not just in sports. If you're the employee of the month, that's a cool award to win. But if you're employee of the month 12 months in a row and you become employee of the year, now you're talking about building a dynasty with the work that you do. And it's even greater when you show up and perform when the lights are bright. There are always teams in sports that dominate in the regular season, and somehow, some way, when the lights are bright, when the playoffs are here, their biggest weaknesses that they might have been able to conceal during the season gets exposed. Now, for younger baseball fans, especially in Japan, the Dodgers are going to become a part of a lot of these kids' identities. When you grow up and see your team win a championship at that young of an age, it cements your fandom for them because you have that belief that the team is committed to winning and you're willing to commit yourself to that team pursuing continued success. For global audiences, Los Angeles specifically is a hub that's worshipped for the way it has sports, culture, and Hollywood converging all in one place. So when you see the parade, the confetti, the flaunting of the trophy that the Dodgers are getting ready to do, don't just see it as any other trophy. It's the moment where the consistency of the Dodgers committing and showing their fans that they're willing to do anything to win a championship met that opportunity for them to get a Shohei Ohtani, for them to get Yamamoto, who ends up becoming the MVP of the World Series. In your own career or creative journey, have you had that moment yet? Have you only had one legacy moment? Have you repeated it multiple times and stamped your legacy? Because as soon as the celebration stops, the lights turn off, and everyone disperses back to their normal lives, there's only one question that remains on people's minds. Can you do it again? Will the Los Angeles Dodgers win another championship and become one of the very few who have three-peated, won 3 consecutive championships in their sport? More and more, these athletes are becoming fabrics of pop culture reality, whereas 30, 40, 50 years ago, only but a chosen few would elevate to the point where you're a household name. Nowadays with social media, all it takes is a player to do a nice TikTok for them to become very well known. So as the athlete-fan relationship is evolving over time, I think there's one athlete in particular who underratedly is playing a major role in redefining what that looks like. Kevin Durant is completely changing the way that athlete-fan relationships work one tweet at a time. And he revealed that this week with what is likely his most unique interview that he's had in his entire career. And that's with him sitting down next to Bobby Altoff, a podcaster whose career was launched off of doing a Drake interview where the shtick that she pushed was not knowing much about him. She parlayed that into a so far brief podcast career where her style of interviewing is to intentionally be awkward with her guests. So going into Durant's interview, what I expected was awkward small talk and maybe discussing some viral clips of his. But what we got instead was a conversation about identity, insecurity, and coming to grips with your mortality on a public stage, wrapped in his interviewer Bobby's deadpan humor. At first glance, Durant has been on a press run, doing multiple interviews and further ingratiating himself into the community of Houston now that he has arrived on the Houston Rockets. But when you listen closer, what he's actually revealing is how a hyper-driven life built on physical performance leaves little room for softness, and how he's learning to reclaim that within his identity. It started when he revealed one of the most vulnerable things that Durant has ever said publicly. This is a guy who experienced a mountain of hate when he left the team that drafted him, the Oklahoma City Thunder, to join a 73-9 Warriors team, the greatest regular season team in NBA history. For those who weren't Warriors fans, it felt like he was cheating the game of basketball because people believe that a player of that level of greatness, a top 5 player in the world, should not be joining on to a team that has already demonstrated success, that he should want to build it for himself. Even with that mountain of criticism from fans and media alike, nothing within that period was the most vulnerable that he would be. The most vulnerable thing he revealed in this interview was dealing with his personal appearance throughout his career, claiming that at a point in his early 30s, he was struggling with being too tall, being too skinny. And even though at this point he had already cemented a legacy as one of the greatest scorers in NBA history, he still had to go through a mental battle to, as he described, snap out of it and have love and affection for who he is, regardless of public perception. Now that might seem like something small in the grand scheme, but that was incredibly personal, something that he wasn't revealing to the world. And I believe once he conquered that, him answering people complaining about him being on a team, missing some shots, having a bad game, became minimized for him. Athletes train their body to perform at the highest level, not to be at peace with them. And even the most confident people in the world can still be grappling with self-image. That's why we see some people entering into large amounts of wealth and spending it to reclaim that confidence. Even the great, phenomenal, outstanding Kevin Durant couldn't out-achieve that insecurity. He had to deal with it himself. He also revealed more about his upbringing, how his parents treated him. It's difficult for people on the outside looking in to get a firm grasp of what greatness truly cost. Kevin Durant admitted to at one point quitting basketball. As a child, there was one day where it was too many practices, waking up too early, on top of having to travel over an hour to get to and from school and the gym. He was just tired of it. He told his mom, he told his coach, "I'm done." And his mother and father had to push him harder because they saw the greatness in him that even he may not have fully seen for himself. In his older age, he realized the pain of that pressure that they applied to him was actually a symbol of love. And him and Bobby discussed that dynamic today. The struggle of learning how to pass down discipline without also instilling trauma in your children. Everyone wants to be the best until they realize that it might cost you your entire childhood being obsessed with achieving that goal. And even towards the conclusion of this interview, they discussed things as far out as technology and AI, and how Kevin understands that his career is on the last legs and soon he'll have to transition to something different. He's involved in the media world and wants to stay involved with the evolving world of technology. This interview was significant because we got to see the superstar being unguarded in a guided format. He's taken a lot of heat throughout his career for being someone who's an avid user of Twitter, someone who responds to fans whenever they levy critique his way. He's done it with his official account, and he's had burner accounts to respond to fans as well. But as you listen to him talk through his experiences, what you get to understand is through his actual confidence in himself, he believes that he's elevating the game through these actions. By creating actual personal interactions with these fans, he believes it's not only pushing the game forward because now they might have a bigger investment in the game, knowing that they can actually have an interaction without going to the games. But the biggest gift that Durant might have for the basketball world is not his unstoppable jumper. It's not his back-to-back championships with the Warriors. It might be him revealing what's going on in his mind as we get a look into the mind of one of the greatest athletes of all time. This can not only contribute to the next basketball generation as they see what it takes and the level of preparation needed to be the greatest, but also everyday people, understanding that even athletes deal with insecurity, understanding that if you want to be great regardless of your field, this is the type of dedication that it takes, and getting a real understanding of how he overcame tumultuous situations from a low-income household in a relatively dangerous community, from tearing his Achilles in the NBA Finals and having to completely rehabilitate his basketball game, from being the villain of the basketball world when he went to the Golden State Warriors. Getting an actual look into how he dealt with these situations will inspire the next generation the same way that Kobe Bryant's Mamba mentality inspired a generation, the same way that Michael Jordan's relentless chase for greatness inspired the following generation. It's also proof that the next generation of storytelling doesn't need to be a super high production documentary. It just might require some emotional curiosity. People still want truth, humor, and humanity from their icons. So when we watch these athletes and they can seem perfect, disciplined, emotionless at times, it reminds us that greatness doesn't just erase humanity. And maybe the real championships isn't the amount of rings that you get. Maybe the real victory is being at peace with the person you are once you reach the conclusion of your career. On a more fun note, this past weekend was Halloween, one of the more unique holidays of the year. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the impact of Halloween movies, because I believe that Halloween movies have dictated the way that we look at Halloween. Every October, people turn off the lights, grab some popcorn, and voluntarily scare themselves. But why do we love that feeling? From the movie Halloween to Get Out to Coraline, does it actually hit on something deeper than just fear? Halloween movies aren't just seasonal content. They've become cultural mirrors. The genre has evolved from gothic horror to social commentary, and from campy thrillers to existential dread. And every era's Halloween films can give you a glimpse into what society was like at that time. In the 70s and 80s, slasher films like Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street reflected the perspective of suburban anxiety, the idea that danger could exist even in the safest places. In the 2000s, horror went global. The Ring, Saw, Paranormal Activity, tapping into fear of modernizing technology and surveillance. Recent hits like Get Out, Sinners, Weapons have explored identity, social media, and alienation, showing that modern horror is more psychological rather than supernatural. Our monsters evolve with our headlines. Now, in terms of why we enjoy it, psychologists hypothesize that horror is one of the safest ways to process real-world anxieties. Watching people face these chaotic situations from the comfort of your couch can give you a sense of control and, in some cases, a rehearsal for survival if you were to somehow, some way, be in a similar situation. That's why a Halloween marathon can feel more therapeutic as you face these fears with a community around you. Studios like A24 are starting to treat horror more like a storytelling language, to be able to look at grief and identity, emotions that many people avoid but can now be explored through these aesthetics. So every Halloween, we come together and experience essentially a shared myth. Decorating, dressing up, watching horror classics, it's a ritualized form of storytelling, turning fear into play and trauma into connection. So in a weird way, Halloween might actually be about therapy, proving that entertainment can help metabolize fear. So if you had a chance to check out any Halloween movies in the spirit of Halloween weekend, take a second to reflect on what you think that movie was actually revealing about the state of society when it came out. Lastly, I want to take a look at how evolving AI is impacting storytelling in the future of gaming. The gaming industry is on the verge of a golden era. Imagine a game where the story isn't fixed. The characters remember you, and every time you play, it's uniquely tailored to your personal decisions. That's no longer a figment of people's imagination, and it might completely change the world of content creation and culture as a whole. For decades, video games put forth a linear storyline, but now AI is unlocking something different. Tools and engines are being built to allow the world to read, react, adapt, and remember. Non-playable characters will adapt and evolve throughout the games. A survey recently showed that nearly 90% of all game developers are at least dipping their toes into leveraging AI agents, hoping to leverage it for creative elements like dialogue and level design. And it will begin with tailoring the story to you. As worlds adapt, each playthrough of a game can feel fresh, something new, as the characters react to different decisions you make on a grander scale. We've seen decision-making in video games and having characters make certain decisions based on what you choose. But for everyone in the world to be aligned on what you're deciding to do with your character is a whole nother level. And it begs the question, how do you define a story when you're only building the boundaries that it exists within? When stories become personalized and adaptive, the nature of authorship shifts. The actual meaning of a game can change depending on who plays it, and new challenges will emerge for the designers. How do you consider every permutation that will take place as a player plays and balance that freedom with the narrative that you're hoping to convey? So this shift presents an opportunity that may not be discussed as much now as it will be in the future. If you can imagine a narrative system You can design it a whole new lens to view storytelling through, where instead of it being me telling you a story, it becomes me building a world for you to experience a story within. Is this the future of movies as well, as Netflix is already using AI to try and customize certain colors and scenes to your viewing activity? The future of shows, the future of music. Is everything going to become hyper-personalized to your actual desires? It remains to be seen. But at least with gaming, you would maintain some level of control as you can decide what actual decisions you're making within the games. The digital world continues to get more and more interesting every single day. So are you ready to not just play a story, but to become part of one? And in the creative work that you do, think about what systems you can build for your audience so that they don't just receive your story, but can live in it. As with this podcast, I'm hoping that you don't just receive what I'm saying, but can use it in interactions that you have throughout your life, or to form new ideas based on these stories that I'm sharing with you. With that being said, we've come to the end of today's podcast. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you taking the time out. The link to my newsletter is in the description. If you want to get an easy, quick hit look at the major pop culture events that take place every single week, and I'll talk to you next time. Have a great week. This is Behold Pop Culture.